Hey everyone, Jason Schappert here, M0A.com and RemotePilot101.com, hanging out again right here on the podcast desk, sitting with Amanda. Amanda heads up all of our social media, makes all the magic happen. You've seen it on the Instagram story and everything else, today especially. Most importantly, the M0A office dad is working at the TriCaster, making all that magic happen. You don't want to put a cool camera on yourself? You don't want everyone to see?
I'm good.
He's a behind-the-scenes office dad. That's why he's the office dad. We go to him with all our problems, and there's a lot of them sometimes. So Wayne is the M0A office dad, just the three of us in the office, the rest of the team all working remotely. You saw many of them yesterday in our little company Google Hangout that we have. The focus of today, I realize so many of you are in self-quarantine, in shelter-in-place type orders. You're stuck at home, have cabin fever, whatever it is. We are here to deliver you as much just great aviation-related content as we can. So Amanda has been asking you all this week for questions to ask myself. This is kind of like an Ask Me Anything sort of thing. She has a big list of questions. If you have additional questions, you can ask them. She's watching the YouTube and Facebook chats. I can't see them, but I'll pull them up here in just a bit. So I will say hi to everybody over there on YouTube and Facebook as well. And then Amanda, I'll let you kind of just take it away, kind of asking anything. It doesn't have to be aviation related, just any question. We're happy to just chat about it.
Absolutely. We got a lot of questions in after our video on Monday, so we're going to start with those, and then I'll add in any that we get from the live chat today. So the first one is from Jim. He wants to know, what was your worst drone mishap?
My worst drone mishap. I need to get up and move for this one. I got to hold on. I got all these cables. I need to show my worst drone mishap. Stand by. Is this bolted here, Wayne? No. Okay. I need props for my worst drone mishap. Let me tuck my microphone back down here. My worst drone mishap. Okay. I had bought a brand spanking new, I had the Phantom 3 that you see here that has the scars to prove it. It is now for display purposes only. Sorry, you're on this camera. Thank you, Wayne. This is for display purposes only now. I bought a brand new, after this brand new DJI Mavic. When it first came out, it was actually one of the pre-release versions before anybody even had one. I took the DJI Mavic, I went over, my parents had never seen a drone before, so I'm like, oh Dad, I'm gonna show you this drone. So I went out there, we set the drone, we were flying, and I said, it has this really cool mode called Follow Me mode. And I put it in Follow Me mode, and at the time, it was an unknown bug, but I made it a very known bug, that Follow Me mode at the time did not follow you. It literally took off, went full speed towards these woods by my parents' house, kind of stopped at the trees, went back like the sensor sensed it, and then it just kept plowing right on through into the trees and got stuck in top of the tree. And I owned my brand new DJI Mavic for about, 2-3 minutes. So then, where the Phantom comes into this story is I had this brilliant idea. Since it was like the Mavic was sitting right on top of the canopy, I had this brilliant idea. I was going to attach this claw-like rope and structure to the Phantom to go get the Mavic out of the trees. So I flew this. You can tell it didn't work out very well, right? I had this claw-like structure. I flew over. I put the camera straight down. I felt like I was playing that Operation game where you can't touch the sides and like that. I got the claw wrapped around one of the Mavic arms, and I went full power to get it out of the tree. It was so stuck in the tree that the center of gravity and the loading of that took this and just went straight down into the tree. And then I had 2 drones stuck at the top of the tree. After that, I got smart, and Matt was there at this point. Matt's our COO. He came out I think I asked Matt to come shoot them out of the tree. That's what I asked Matt to do. That's why Matt got involved. I was getting desperate. And instead, Matt said, why don't we just call a tree climber? And we hired this tree climber. He was out there within an hour with no ropes, just with these like spiky shoes. That man climbed, had to be 150 feet in the air, and just like free climbed this tree. And I'm like, that was pretty boss. And then brought both drones back down. So for $100, that's what this drone cost me, extra. So that, thank you, Jim, for those memories. It's funny now. It wasn't so funny back then when it happened. So that is my worst drone-related incident. I've gotten better since then. I'm not at Office Dad's level, but I'm getting better.
All right. Paul wants to know, with your level of interesting intelligence, do you happen to be a ham radio operator?
Wow, that was a wow.
Well, did you hear that, Wayne? Someone thinks I have interesting intelligence. That's opposite of what Wayne tells me every day. I need affirmations. Okay, that's my love language, Wayne. Can you start using that more often now?
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you for the kind words. What was his name again?
Paul.
Paul. Paul, I am not a ham radio operator. I've looked into it a little bit. I know many of my friends are actually ham radio operators. It's never something I got into, but I am into gadgetry and figuring stuff out and everything else. But that's not something I've done in the past. But thank you for the question.
All right. Brian's curious as to how the CFI videos are coming and if there's going to be a CFI instrument.
Brian's asking a very sore subject, and that one hurt. That cuts deep. Everyone asks about the CFI course, and the CFI course has been. This is the problem that you need to understand. Many of you see this very polished Jason up on these videos and everything. The shirt's right and everything else. Wayne's going, that's not the real Jason. He's laughing now. The problem is I have many ideas, and Wayne actually has a giant whiteboard in his room that's just like the wall of Jason's dreams that I literally walk into Wayne's office and go, Wayne, I have an idea. And he just writes it down to save it for later. We're going to rename it our parking lot of ideas. The CFI course we made some progress on. I'm the kind of person that comes with a really good idea, likes the first 20% of it, and then needs someone to help me with the other 80%. So that kind of fell in that limbo. And then unfortunately, and this is more truth than the crazy idea part, is the ACS came out. I was awaiting ACS guidance on that. Even so, when there wasn't a CFI ACS, still you're teaching to this new ACS for private instrument commercial. So yes, that is something that will be done. We're in the process right now of reshooting our private course and our remote pilot course and our instrument course. After that, we're going to dive into commercial and CFI. So that's realistically an end of the year type goal to be shooting and diving into production with those sort of things. So I apologize. We do have an amazing FOI course. FOI is Fundamentals of Instruction. Yes, you're going to pass the written test, but I teach you how I believe and how I know from experience how education happens in the real world in the cockpit. I think the FAA provides some great acronyms, some great ideas, but I think we can take that even a step further, and we do that with the FOI course, which has, I believe, 100% success rate on that as well.
People want to know where our studio is located. Is it at the airport?
Our studio is not located at the airport. We're a few miles from the airport. We're in Ocala. Oscar Charlie Foxtrot, that's in Florida. We do studio visits every single week, though. Most people fly into Ocala, grab the courtesy car, and just head on over to visit the studio. Obviously, now we're in some interesting times with the coronavirus, so we are mostly a remote work staff right now. So please, before you try to book a studio tour, reach out to Sarah at m0a.com, SARAH at m0a.com to book that studio tour. I'd imagine we're probably 2-3 months from being able to be comfortable bringing people back into the office anyways. So just my professional opinion. I'm not a doctor by any means.
All right. Do you think that requiring ATSB for drones is a good idea?
So I think requiring ATSB for drones is a good idea. I may get some backlash from this. I am not opposed to remote ID. I believe, and remote ID and ATSB are kind of two different things in a way. They could be one and the same, but I don't believe it's going to take that path. I think remote ID is going to be an asset in the long term for the people who play by the rules and do the right thing. It's going to open up a lot of airspace for us. As far as drones with ATSB, you have to realize that when drones came out, and we had to register our drones. We crashed, the drone pilots and myself crashed the FAA's drone registration website within the first few hours. And within 24 hours, there were more drones registered than there were airmen in the actual FAA manned pilot database. There's around 620,000 manned pilots in the United States. We did over 600,000 or 700,000 drone registrations that first night. Now imagine that. Every aircraft has ATSB, every drone, all 600,000, and there's more. We're pushing 1 million now, drones registered. If I'm looking at my iPad or my iPhone where I receive that ATSB data when I'm flying an unmanned airplane, it's going to be a cluttered field. So maybe there'll be a weight over 55 pounds. I don't know where that will be. I believe there's a place for ATSB in drones. I don't know what that'll be. I thought ATSB and remote ID were going to be the same thing, but they're not going down that path now, based on my inside knowledge with that.
All right. Hudson would like to know, does the Part 107 recurrent apply to a private pilot also, or does a BFR cover the 107?
Great question. I need to rephrase your question a little bit, Hudson. You are a certificated private pilot, which allows you, if you are current, I mean, I'm current in the airplane, I have a flight review, I have a medical, to go take the drone course on FAAsafety.gov to also earn your UAS certificate. And honestly, I encourage all manned pilots to go out and earn it, because it's super cool. Allows you to basically say I'm a commercial drone pilot. You can't really fail the test in a way. They just keep pushing you through it till you pass it from a manned aviation standpoint to take the drone test. Now, your question is to renew. There is an online renewal through FAAsafety.gov, taking that course back through again to end up doing your renewal. You don't need to actually go to a testing center to take that test. I believe that's what you're asking, Hudson. If I'm incorrect, please chime in. Amanda's watching Facebook and YouTube comments as well.
All right, I'm going to read this one from here that just came in from Andrew. CFI student pilot question. Can a student log dual received time before they turn 16? Would that mean minimum age for a student pilot? And if not, how can you legally endorse them for solos on their 16th birthday and prove the 61.87 requirements?
Great question. Yes, you can log dual received instruction. There is not an age requirement to start receiving instruction. The only age requirement, Part 61, that we're given, Andrew, is to actually solo, which then enables us to go log pilot in command time. So, for example, if you look in my very, very first logbook, I have one of those old blue Cessna Pilot Center logbooks from like the 90s. If you go and look at that, my very first flight lesson log, if you do the math on it, I think I was 12 years old. I get the exact date for you. So I logged training, dual received training from an instructor. It's not PIC or anything like that, obviously, until after I solo. There is no requirement. I used to run called the Future Pilot Flight Academy, and it was a summer camp for kids, and it was the same thing. We would take kids, I believe as young as 8 was our youngest, on up to about 16, and get them their first 5-6 hours in an airplane, a little modified ground school. I wish we had drones back then to fly. Instead, we were doing bottle rockets and model rockets and stuff. And RC helicopters and airplanes, but we're doing that with them instead. So yes, there is no requirement for the logging purposes of dual training.
All right. Adam wants to know if there's ever been a time in the office when Jason isn't himself the super happy-go-lucky guy.
I saw this question earlier on your sheet. It's from Adam Saylor, I believe. Adam Saylor is actually one of our original lifetime members. Super guy. Always makes the point to come by every single air show for sure. Adam, you're onto something there. Office Dad can answer this one more accurately. He may have a different answer. I always look at it as I'm allowed to have like one bad day per year. Other than that, what was that? What you think? 2 bad days a year? What do you think, Wayne? What's your opinion of this?
A handful, we'll say.
A handful of bad days a year, he says. No, typically the Jason you see on camera is a little bit different than the Jason if you came to the office. As you learned in our last live stream, there's a lot of pranks, a lot of jokes. You see a very polished and professional Jason on camera. If we were good friends, you would know that although my pranks aren't as good as Wayne's pranks, they're just not as mean as Wayne's pranks, they're getting there. It usually involves breaking into Wayne's Facebook and writing things on his timeline, stink bombs in his office. Actually, I had a really good...
Oh, jeez.
Air horns like that. Wayne's really good at that. I should have known the air horn was up there from yesterday.
I forgot about it too.
He was ready for that.
Yeah.
You got me. Air horns. I actually had a really good prank the other day. Wayne locked himself in his office, and his office connects to one of the restrooms, so I got up on a ladder, moved the drop ceiling, and sent a stink bomb over into his office via the ceiling. So that was a good one. We play a lot of pranks on each other. We do work a lot, but we play a lot of pranks on each other. But as far as upbeat, I am the eternal optimist. I like to see the good in everything, even when it's crazy economic times like this and everything else. We always find the good. So.
All right. Mark wants to know, he's in the market for a plane within the next 6 months or so. What's your opinion on aircraft values in the upcoming months with everything going on?
Aircraft values are going to remain, if they do change, it's going to be a 5% change, maybe towards the lower end, and here's why. There's a lot of flight schools that are really hurting right now, and they're going to be the first to unload some airplanes. So the market is about to, if it's not already, going to slowly start getting flooded with some trainers. So if you're in the 172, 150, 152 Cherokee Archer type market, there's going to be, I still think like the Bonanza market, the higher end Cirrus market, I think that's all going to hold pretty steady if you want my professional opinion. It's the trainers that are going to flood the market a little bit. In addition to this, interest rates are just getting so good right now. Now, do realize there's a difference between what the Fed's doing with their interest rates and actual bank interest rates, although those can and do trickle down because that's just the rate that the bank can loan against. We, the consumers, will appreciate that interest rate cut in time to come, in the next 6 months, like you said. I believe the market's going to get flooded with some trainers. I believe interest rates are going to come down. I believe it's a smart time to maybe pick up some deals. Again, I've said this, I feel like every live stream so far, that in every adversity, there's a seed of a greater and of equivalent advantage. Maybe there's somebody who's down on their luck right now, and you can get a Cessna 172 at 10 grand off of what a retail price would normally be for that in the given market, whatever that may be. Just look at the stock market right now. There's a lot of great buys right now for those who are poised to do something like that. I think that opportunity is going to continue to come, especially with where interest rates are going. I am that eternal optimist, like I was sharing in Adam's question earlier. I believe the economy is going to kind of come roaring back from this, and those flight schools are going to be wishing they had those airplanes back. So just be smart about it. I'm certainly not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you kind of where my head's at from an aircraft and aviation economy standpoint.
Okay, just to let everyone know, our YouTube live chat is delayed quite a bit, and I'm getting very few questions on there. But if you do have a question, pop over to the Facebook Live, and those are coming in as quickly as you type them in for me.
Yeah, we've had a problem with YouTube, just the bit rate being slow. I did a speed test before we started this. We pay for 300 down and 100 up. We were getting 0.95 down and like 4 megabytes up. We reset it and everything else and took all our phones off Wi-Fi, but it's still just everybody's at home.
Yeah, so just bear with us and ask them over on Facebook. Justin wrote in and asked, I find that I sing to myself on long cross-country solo flights. Do you have any strange habits when you're in a long flight solo?
Wayne, do I have any strange habits?
We can't talk about that.
So Justin sings to himself. Do I have any strange habits on a long cross country? I am a terrible singer, so that would not be a good idea. I'm really not even one to listen to music much when I fly. My strange habit, it's kind of a morbid habit, I guess, is I play like the where would I go if the engine quit right now game? And I do that over and over till I lose that point. So for example, we flew the 172 home from California, and you better believe all the way from San Francisco all the way back home to Central Florida, every single time I was like, okay, if the engine quits now, that's where I'm going. And I'd fly and fly and fly until that point got so far off this way, it was no longer a viable option. I would pick my next option. If the engine quits now, that's where I'm going. That's kind of a morbid game to play, but I guess if you ever had to use it, you'd think it's a really smart game to play. Yeah. And that's kind of what I do on cross countries. I'm always thinking of where would I go and who would I be talking to. Usually I'm on flight following or IFR, but who would I communicate this message to as well. So that's not as cheerful as singing, but still just as productive.
Absolutely. All right. If I fly into Florida commercially, can I get CFI time with you?
So I do not take on any students anymore. While I'm very flattered you would ask, I no longer take on any students. It is a handful enough just to teach the office dad to fly. Like that's a full-time job in itself. I mean, have I ever told you the story about when we shut down Hollywood International, Fort Lauderdale International Airport, because he blew a tire on landing? He's a handful of a student to begin with. No, I work with just the M0A team here that's on payroll and helping them to better themselves as pilots. So no public students anymore.
All right. April 2nd, we have a live stream, All Things Aviation, happening.
Yes.
And we have a guest coming in, Trevor, with Chart It All. And he wants to know if next week we can plan lots of pranks for Office Dad while he's here.
Absolutely. Trevor, he is a size extra large, boxer briefs. If you want to make some Chart It All boxer briefs, he's an extra large, maybe a 2X. I don't know. He is on this keto diet, so we'll see. But yes, Trevor, when you're here, we need lots of good office pranks. So bring air horns, stink bombs, glitter, whatever it takes. So no glitter. I hate glitter. If you want to prank me, glitter. Glitter's one of those things you never get off of you. Like I hate glitter. So don't get any ideas.
That's interesting.
Yeah, good to know, right?
Glitter.
Interesting. I told you just to ask me anything.
Okay, what is your worst landing?
My worst landing. There I was with Wayne. We were on final at Fort Lauderdale International. It wasn't looking good. We need a camera and a microphone on Wayne.
We do.
It's no fun just picking on Wayne without being able to see his reactions. I don't know which finger that was you just pointed at me, but my worst landings, I've had a lot of them. Mine personally that I was pilot in command on was probably right before my solo when I missed runway 826 at Ocala by about 100 to 200 feet left, I believe, of the runway and landed in the grass. I literally thought about quitting being a pilot. As far as flying with students before, I had a student once in an older airplane that was all fuses. The circuit breakers certainly existed. This is all fused airplane. And he came in and we hit the ground. This is a towered field. We hit the ground so hard, I thought we blew all 3 tires. We ended up making it a touch and go, and when we went to call the tower, we had no radios. And I realized we had actually blown all the fuses. I looked at the GPS, we lost everything. We lost everything electrical because we hit the ground so hard. We were already flying, and we just went no radio back to a pilot-controlled airport. So that was a tough one. I give Wayne a hard time. Really, the landing at Fort Lauderdale was only like 90% Wayne's fault. So there was probably debris, which is the other 10%. Other terrible landings. Jeez. I've had a lot of landings I'm not proud of, that's for sure. I struggled with crosswinds for a very, very long time. I believe it wasn't until I became a commercial pilot that I finally became comfortable with crosswind landings. You see, the problem I think we have is we work so hard on private, getting our landings down and doing them right. Then we go to instrument, where it's all about approaches, and we go missed, and landings go by the wayside because we only land once in a 1.8 hour lesson. And then you come back to commercial, and it's all about, power off 180s and tighter tolerances on your landings, when your landings were never that great to begin with. If you went like I did, from private, right into instrument, right into commercial, it's challenging. So it wasn't until commercial that my landings kind of started to get, my crosswind landings started to get good, and I was comfortable with it.
All right. Jason wants to know, have you ever had to file a NASA report? Are there any times you would suggest to file or any times you would suggest you not file?
Jason, great name. I've never filed a NASA report. There are times I probably should have, but I was so young in my flying career, I didn't even know what a NASA report was. I'll never forget, I was flying out of Craig Field in Jacksonville. I was with a student. I left Craig Field in Jacksonville, flew over to the Hurlong Airport, a pilot-controlled airport. Thought I switched to Hurlong's frequency. It was just far enough from Craig Tower that I couldn't hear them. And I must have done 10 different touch and goes at Hurlong, all on Craig Tower's frequency. Herlong traffic, 1180 Mike, turn left downwind, runway 23, Herlong. Over and over. I mean, I had to be out there for an hour. And finally, I go back to Craig Tower, and I land, and as soon as I'm taxiing, Craig Ground goes, hey, can you call the tower? I'm like, what did I do wrong? I just left. I went to Herlong. I came. Still had no idea I was on the wrong frequency, and came back and he called me. He goes, I just listened to you do 10 touch and goes at Herlong. You were blocking people. You were stepping on people. You were all this stuff, and you had no idea. I was very apologetic. That perhaps should have been a NASA report. In a way, certainly could have gotten in more trouble than Craig Tower made it out to be. If any of my Jacksonville people are watching this, they're laughing right now because they remember that story. Joel, in particular, probably. It was his airplane. I did it all in. So Joel will be here for the All Things Aviation event. Maybe that's a story we bring up. Joel and I have a lot of stories. I should make a list of all these things. Are there times you shouldn't file a NASA report? No, usually the gut is, if your gut tells you to file it, if you believe you should file it, you should file it. There is no ramifications for filing it if you get it filed. There are ramifications if they come to you and ask you for, conduct an investigation and you haven't filed one. So it only works against you if you don't file one. That's my professional opinion with that.
All right. What cameras and mounts do you recommend or use? I want to start filming while I fly. I have an older GoPro that I use for scuba diving, but I may need to upgrade my equipment.
Sure. I wish John was here for this question, and perhaps we can ask it during the JFK Jr. live stream tomorrow as well, because he'll be here. It's my understanding we're using whatever the newest GoPros are right now. We're using those for the action cameras, and we have to have 8 or 9 of them. We utilize those. We have a lot of heat issues. Especially being in Florida, a lot of times they'll overheat and won't make it for the entire duration, so you want to be mindful of that. We tried to modify some cases and everything else with that. Be very careful and very smart with how you mount these cameras. Obviously, I'll stick to just talking about internal camera mounts, which are the safest, although I've seen those go wrong, though, too, when a suction mount falls. Joel actually has a story he wants to share, Amanda, next week on that live stream of he was at 20,000 feet, I think in a CJ, had the iPad mounted on a suction mount. The suction mount fell, hit the yoke, disengaged the autopilot, and put the CJ into a nosedive from 20,000 feet, and ATC wasn't too happy with him. That's an iPad. I've had GoPros fall and scare me to death and everything else, obviously, in the cockpit. External mounting's a whole nother story. You need to look into like a Flight Flicks or something like that, because you're getting into possible alterations of the aircraft. Obviously, we have a full-time maintenance staff to help with those sort of things and try to do things that are more temporary in nature. But you got to be careful. I've seen some very scary means of mounting cameras that people do. You want to be very smart. We obviously always go above and beyond with that. Steve-O's another one who goes above and beyond with safety on those sort of things. Steve-O also will be on that same live stream. But yes, we're using the newest GoPros. If that's what you're asking, if you want to get into the cinematic stuff, I mean, how we're doing everything in the studio, that's more of a John question for the types of cameras and stuff that we use for that, if you really want to get involved in that.
Absolutely. Alex asked, at age 47, I'm about to retire from the Army. Can I still pursue a career in aviation?
So, I don't believe the video with Tom Frick is posted yet. We need to go find this, though. Tom Frick is one of our great CFIs. If my intelligence proves right, I believe he's older than age 46. I believe he began around that time period, though. Left a career in the newspaper business, which in his words was kind of waning, and decided to pursue flying. He earned his private instrument commercial relatively quickly, was a full-time flight instructor, became a CSIP, a Cirrus certified instructor, so he's doing the Cirrus charter work just around Florida. That's a very popular business. And now he is flying right seat as first officer on a Lear 55, and he's just in a different city every day, married man, everything else, and just absolutely loves what he is doing. And again, I could look it up in payroll, but he's at least as old as Office Dad, which is, I don't need to go there, but if you're the Office Dad, you've got some years on you, Tom's a super guy. I believe that video is done if we want to look into that.
I think it got sent this morning, yes.
Okay, super.
Yeah. A lot of people are commenting on your wing table, and they want to know where the idea came from.
The idea came from, I wanted the wing table from Restoration Hardware, but it was $2,000. So instead, I went on Wayfair and found the knockoff wing table for $400. and Wayfair.com. I'll take my commissions from you guys and send them. It is a very cool table. So it comes, here's the problem with this table though. It comes without the glass top. This glass top was, geez, this was the price of the stupid table alone. We had to get fancy though, drilling out spots for the mic stands and everything else. The problem with the table is the rivets are literally raised. So it's, if you have a computer, there is one little space here that's flat, but we wanted glass to be able to work across this whole table. We tried it without the glass, and everyone's computers were toppling and everything else. Cool table. It's wood, actually. It looks like this is aluminum. I don't believe there's anything aluminum about this. I think this is painted wood with maybe a, it's not aluminum, that's for sure though.
Yeah.
But it looks super cool on camera. Wayfair.com is $400.
All right. I have 210 hours of commercial training. Should I go for my CFI and CFII or multi-engine training first?
It depends on your mission. So the typical answer, most people go private, instrument, commercial, single, commercial, multi, CFI, CFII. I went a different route. I went private, instrument, commercial, single, CFI, II, went back and added my commercial multi after that. I had a very good opportunity to start teaching very early. At 18 years old, I was a flight instructor. I was probably about 19 by then, because I was 18, I was a commercial pilot, so I was maybe more like 19 by the time I became a flight instructor. I have to look it up. And I had a great opportunity to start working with a ton of students, some that own their own airplanes. Joel was a very early aviation mentor of mine that got me many of the thousands of hours that I have to this day. Again, he'll be here next week. And that was my opportunity. There was more of an opportunity to start teaching than there was to go start flying some twins as a low time twin guy, because all I was going to get is the minimum 10, 15 hours in a multi-engine aircraft. Great, I got my commercial multi. No one's going to touch you at 10 or 15 hours. If I had an opportunity, if a friend said, hey Jason, I've got this Baron, that if you get your commercial multi, I can put your right seat flying in the Baron with me, I would have gone that route. I just had a more of an opportunity to start instructing, and that's an easier place to get into. Twins, multi-engine aircraft is hard to come by nowadays. So if you have the opportunity, take it. Multi-engine time is like gold, as anybody who's pursuing an airline career will tell you. You need the multi-engine time. So I actually didn't have my MEI for a very long time. I probably got it within the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years. So I was a flight instructor without an MEI for a very long time, just because multi-engine's hard to come by.
All right. The next question is, I am a private pilot and I have taken the drone FAA course. Who signs off for me to have my commercial drone certificate?
That is a great question. I'm trying to, they've changed the system so many times. Wayne, chime in if you remember. If I'm a private pilot, this is how it used to be. It used to be I would go take that course, I'd have to then go find a flight instructor to sign me off. However, I have to be honest with you, I don't recall what it is right now here today. Maybe someone in the comments who's done it more recently would know. Let's look that up a minute, because they have literally flip-flopped so many times. There was a time when if you were just an unmanned pilot, that an instructor had to help you with IACRA, and they've flip-flopped so many times on it, I cannot recall what their current stance is on it. It's kind of like registration. Register, don't register. Register, don't register. Yeah. So that's my professional opinion on that. I apologize for not knowing that offhand.
We'll make sure to get the answer posted.
Yeah, we'll certainly look
Absolutely.
it up for you.
What is the best Russ prank that's happened in the office?
Is this happened, a prank that we did to Russ, or a prank that Russ induced on us?
They just asked what the best Russ prank was.
I think the best prank that Russ has done, and it's a video Amanda is working on, and it's gonna be highly acclaimed. It's gonna get more views than a normal M0A video. Wayne was, I'm gonna reenact it. Wayne was sitting at his desk like this, and Wayne at his desk has this huge computer monitor, and it's a very long hallway from Wayne's desk. Russ got the fart spray. He went like commando army crawl, and he is crawling, but he's crawling in the blind spot of Wayne's monitor, so Wayne can't see anything. And we have it on the security camera footage that's up here. You see him belly crawl all the way up, literally underneath Wayne's desk, spray the fart spray, and you can hear this fart spray being sprayed on the camera, on Wayne's shoes. and then proceeds to belly crawl backwards, and he gets out of the hallway right as Wayne says a few choice words. We're going to have to bleep that part out, by the way. Wayne's got a sailor mouth on him sometimes. He is the office dad. He's allowed to. Looks like it was
There's nothing funny about that.
There was, yeah, exactly. That was the best one that Russ has done. Wayne, what's the best prank we've done to Russ? We've gotten Russ pretty good. Oh, so that's another one. So Russ's office, you can't really see it on that camera. Russ's office is on this side of the studio. So when he's here, if I'm filming, he's literally like stuck in his office. So we got one of probably the DJI mini drones. Fart spray revolves around a lot of our pranks, I'm realizing, Wayne. We're disgusting. We sprayed fart spray on a tissue paper, attached it with a paper clip to the drone, flew the drone all the way back, and stopped it right in front of Russ's door. So imagine how the thrust of a drone works, and spraying all that fart spray smelled down, and he couldn't leave because anytime he tried to go under the drone, we lowered the drone. Anytime he tried to jump over the drone, we went up. So he couldn't move. He was literally locked in his office with this drone with a stink bomb attached to it, basically. So that was one of my prouder moments as the CEO of M0A.com.
All right. A lot of people are asking how you and your family are doing through everything that's going on.
Kids are absolutely super. Kids are homeschooled, so they really don't know the difference. Other than in the community I live in, the playground and the pool is closed. That's about the only thing they're really bummed about.
Yeah.
So other than that, everybody is outstanding.
I homeschool as well. That's what my kids are like, this is normal. What's going on?
There's no difference to it, so it's all good.
Is it normal to feel like you learn the most once you are a CFI?
That is 100% accurate. And there's this, I'm always fascinated about the science of learning. So I'm like one of those super nerds. Amanda and I were trying to come up with an idea for a new series revolving around Jason's hobbies. And my first one goes, oh, I could talk about the book I'm reading this week. And she said, Jason, that'd be really, really boring. So I read a book a week, sometimes even more, and usually about how we learn. So it's interesting. There's actual clinical data. It can't be clinical because it's not in a clinic, but you know what I mean. There's scientific data that shows that when we actually have to get to the level where we teach something, or even better said, when we have to start explaining something to someone else, we experience a deeper imprint on our own learning. I always said it, but I never had the data to justify it, that becoming a CFI made me a better pilot, but I didn't know how. So now we've tried to even instill in our private pilots, don't just let this be a take in, and try to retain it. Rote memorization does not work. Rote memorization, like when we're back in college trying to cram for something, it just doesn't work. It may work to pass a test short term, but the long-term stickability of that learning, it's not going to stick around in the short or long-term memory for that matter. So instead, as a private pilot, take the information in and then explain it to someone. It could be your dog, it could be your spouse, it could be whoever, but try to then teach what you're learning to someone else. And you can do that before you're even a CFI, obviously, to help further and increase your learning potential.
All right. Let's see. How do I renew my remote pilot license? I got it in 2017.
Okay, great question. First off, let's change our verbiage a little bit. Remember, it's a remote pilot certificate. You're laughing at me because you knew I was going to say that. I'm weird about that, like the language that we use. It is not a private pilot license. It's a private pilot certificate. You're not a certified flight instructor. You are a certificated flight instructor. It's not a remote pilot license. It is a remote pilot certificate. That's like a Jason pet peeve. There's nothing.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, no one's gonna like take you to drone prison for saying license, other than me. What was the question again? I got off my little tangent. I was like a politician. I was gonna say what I wanted to say there. Darn it.
He got his license in 2017. How can he renew it?
So 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. You earned your certificate by taking the Part 107 written test, knowledge test, in 2017. 18, 19, 20, you've since lapsed now. So during that lapse time, you're not able to operate commercially. However, at any point, you can go back and just take the recurrent Remote Pilot Knowledge Test is all it's called. If you're already a Remote Pilot 101 member, if you bought the full course, you have access to the recurrent course already. If not, we do sell just the recurrent course. I believe it's $67, remotepilot101.com to check that out.
All right. Someone wanted to know if you foresee any problems getting a medical in the future after the coronavirus.
Yeah, so the coronavirus brings up a few issues, and I'm surprised we haven't had these types of questions yet, because testing centers, these sort of things. I learned something interesting about testing centers. Remind me to come back to it. As far as medicals go, obviously, if a doctor is willing to do the medical, you can go get your medical. However, I have yet to see a doctor's office that's willing to stay open during these times, especially most of these AMEs, aviation medical examiners. That's not their full-time gig. They're the ear, nose, and throat doctor, they're the anesthesiologist, they're the whatever, and this is just like their side gig because they're a pilot, or it's a way to give back, or another source of income for them. Their main gig is ear, nose, and throat, or whatever it is. So right now, they're maybe doing triage on their own businesses, going, hey, my ear, nose, and throat business, I'm not seeing as many customers now because people don't want to come to my office, and the medical examination kind of goes by the wayside. Mark Baker put out a great article on AOPA on Friday, I believe, talking about, and Mark is great, AOPA is great at fighting in Congress for us, saying we need some guidance because there are medicals that are going to lapse. There are FERCs, flight instructor refresher courses, that a lot of times we flight instructors do those in person that have been canceled, that we're not going to be able to attend. There are checkride examiners who are not willing to give check rides right now. We're going to need some sort of grace period. There are written tests, like the recurrent written test, that may or may not be able to be conducted now. So I learned something interesting yesterday. I gave slightly false information yesterday. Not all testing centers are closed. Just corporate PSI testing centers are closed. PSI testing centers that are owned and operated by PSI are closed. Independent testing centers, mom and pop flight school down the road that has a PSI testing center that just does aviation tests, if they're still open, they're still giving tests.
Gotcha.
But PSI as a corporation just closed its testing centers because PSI doesn't just do aviation. They do real estate exams, they do medical exams, they do all sorts of stuff for doctors and everything else. They are a true testing company. Aviation is just a small subset of what they do.
Awesome. The Smokehouse Pilots Club wants to know if you ever attend events as a guest speaker.
Did this come from Gabe or from Steve Bloom? Because it came from Gabe, the answer is yes. If it came from Steve Bloom, the answer is absolutely not.
Pretty sure it was Gabe.
Okay, if it came from Gabe, I will do that. Gabe, I saw you did a great live stream yesterday via Zoom. If you want to make that virtual, we can look into it. If not, once all this craziness passes, my friend, I would be honored and love to come there in person. We just need provide the venue, and we'll sort out logistics and figure out a way to do that. But I'm always very thankful for what you do, Gabe, for aviation, and your group is just blowing up, my friend. So congratulations to your success with that. I think you had 100-something people on a Zoom call yesterday. It was awesome.
Does your website offer ATC training step-by-step?
We do not offer ATC training step-by-step. I assume they're talking about to become an air traffic controller.
They were very vague. That was the question.
If you're trying to become an air traffic controller, no. I don't know if there's a market for that. I think a lot of times you go to be a controller, you go to, Oak City has their own training, or they go to DC, I don't know where they go, but they probably do their own training in Oak City. For that, as far as helping pilots get better at their radio communications, absolutely, there's entire courses and modules that we do on that, but not actually training controllers. I don't think that's a viable market. I could be totally wrong, and I've been wrong many times in the past.
I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to ask this one.
Okay. This sounds great. Give it to Wayne then.
So quite a few have asked, and I'm not sure if this is coming from the same person because I've scrolled through already, but they want to know if you nair or shave your legs, and why do you have a fascination with buying sneakers?
Wow, these are all very, very good questions. I have not shaved my face recently. This is my quarantine beard. This took a month to grow, and I'm pretty proud of it, although it's driving me insane. I guess we said it was Ask Me Anything. I'm on a campaign against body hair. Is that safe to say? I'll leave that at that. You got smooth arms. That's what it is.
And you just like sneakers?
And I just like sneakers. These are dirty today. These are okay. I gotta show them these. Which camera are we at? Can we go on this camera? These are the Jason edition Nikes. They outsold the LeBrons last year. So sorry, LeBron, but these outsold you. I mean, if you alphabetize Nike.com, Jason just comes before LeBron. Is what it is. But yeah, I'm a shoe guy. I like shoes. Although these are dirty. These are not a good representation of how I like shoes. It's quarantine life,
I was thinking
I just haven't been caring as much. So. Wayne, did you put that question in there? Thank you for the question.
Yes. Okay.
Everything's fair game. It's fine.
Let's see. Oh, Sergio is apologizing. It's certificate. A lot of our members are reminding him that there are no licenses.
Again, I'm in a campaign against body hair and I'm in a campaign against licenses. It's certificates.
What are your perspectives for aviation from now on?
Wow. I believe this, I don't want to downplay the coronavirus in the least bit. I do believe this is a bump in the road. I believe we're going to persevere through this, not only as a country, but as a global economy will persevere through this. Many pilots are very upset right now. We went from having a pilot shortage to pilots on the streets. And I believe those airlines are going to be asking those pilots to come back relatively quickly. I love watching the markets. I love watching economic indicators and predictors. And there's 2021, regardless of elections, politics, everything else, looks like it's going to be a phenomenal year. And I believe aviation is going to continue to grow. I believe the drone segment is going to continue to grow as we find new and innovative ways to use drones out there as well. I mean, it's mind-boggling the uses for drones. So that's an area we're really focusing on. We're also really focusing on growing our manned aviation business. I mean, we are here to stay, no doubt, and I believe aviation will be with us for a very long time. Will there be unmanned Airbus A320s one day? Maybe. I don't think it'll be my problem. I think it'll be whoever takes over M0A.com's problem one day. I don't think it'll be a problem we have to worry about just yet. But we are always looking towards the future and trying to be cutting edge with that. But I think aviation has a very, very bright future. This is just a little speed bump along the way. And that's not crazy optimistic, Jason. That's a very realistic analysis. And I think most people can share that despite the craziness of our economy right now.
Matt messaged in and said to let you know that Jim Porterfield is the one asking all of the awesome questions.
Oh, thank you, Jim Porterfield. So let's talk about Jim Porterfield for a second. Jim Porterfield could have been Tom Cruise. If you ever meet him, Jim Porterfield comes up to about my ribs right here on me, looks exactly like Tom Cruise, same height as Tom Cruise, and he'd be good at office pranks too, Wayne. He spits a good game. So thank you, Mr. Porterfield, for your questions being answered, AKA Tom Cruise. He literally, you look at him, I'm gonna make a side-by-side of Tom Cruise and Jim Porterfield, same. I'm telling you. Tom might be a better pilot though.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Will the FAA close certain airspace?
I think they've shown they already have. They already have, though, because controllers in that cab or in that tower have tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. So out of precaution, they've had to shut down the entire operation, disinfect the cab, the actual tower itself, then the office spaces, and just anything associated with that. And then the controllers themselves need to go into a self-quarantine. So with no controllers for that airspace, some have gone virtual, which is awesome. Again, where technology is going with these things. And some have been closed. Like Midway, for example, is closed, but it's pilot controlled, but there's a TFR with it as well. That's just because there are a bunch of people, doing touch and goes at Midway, which sounds awesome, but also sounds very, very dangerous. Will they close national airspace? Wow, that would be a big, big hit to the economy. Again, nothing we wouldn't come back from. But it would be a big hit. I don't see that coming unless this thing takes a hard left turn this week. Again, I am not a doctor. I am just a optimistic guy who flies airplanes.
All right. What are the 3 top things that people feel when they do their check ride? I'm more worried about the world than I am about flying. I'm not sure what he's asking there.
Read the first part again. The top 3 things. What?
What are the 3 top things that people feel when they do their check ride?
Feel or fear?
It says feel, but maybe it's fear.
Can we ask him to clarify? Maybe.
Nathan, can you
maybe clarify
your question there for
I don't want to get on a tangent because I could talk all day about
here we go.
3 fears.
What are the top 3 things that people fail in their check rides?
Oh yeah, okay, great question. I'm glad we clarified because
Yes.
I was about to go on a big tangent. Top 3 things people fail. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's not talk about it from a failure standpoint. Let's talk about it from a not able to even do my check ride standpoint. Because every single check ride examiner will tell you that they turn away more check rides than they actually conduct. Because the check ride never gets started. Because they're missing hours, they're missing endorsements, the paperwork is wrong, they are missing flights they should have had, they're short on hours, whatever it is. I don't know the stat, but if there's check ride examiners watching, I'd be willing to bet it might even be as high as like 60-40. Like 60% they literally just don't do the check ride because they didn't meet some requirement and both are left to go home. And it's happened to me, it's happened to maybe people on this webinar. It happens a lot more than you believe because we might interpret the regs one way, the examiner interprets them another way, who's right, who's wrong, it's whatever it may be. So that while that's not a failure, it's certainly it's a punch in the stomach because you're just mentally ready for this check ride and you get turned away. As far as things that make people fail, on the oral exam, of course, just not knowing our stuff. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. You have to know your stuff. You have to be able to explain it at a strong enough level. As far as the flight goes, there's even more ways to do it. How about forgetting things like clearing turns? And you have to realize it's usually not just one thing to fail a check ride. It's multiple tiny things that compound to a failure. I mean, you could be coming into land and land on the wrong runway or not get a clear to land clearance and literally you get failed because of that, and that's a big deal. Usually that's not the case. Usually it's a bunch of tiny things. You forgot clearing turns this time. You never gave me a passenger briefing. You missed that radio call from ATC back there. And then, by the way, your slow flight, you were plus 300 feet. And one of those things by themselves is probably not big enough to fail a check ride in the overall scheme of things, but a bunch of tiny things compounded is what actually does it, typically. So I can't say these are the 3 main things. It's a lot of little things.
Okay. Eduardo wants to know, IFR is something that's very hard for me to learn. What do you recommend, or do you have any tips to help me?
So, Eduardo, you're right. IFR is very challenging. IFR is all up here. IFR is all in your head when it comes to that, the knowledge. You already know how to fly the airplane. The hardest thing is now talking on the radio, so hopefully you're good on radios. I unfortunately was terrible on radios. I had never received VFR flight following as a private pilot, so I had no clue about the IFR system at all. It was very, very troubling for me trying to learn radios and IFR flying as well. So brush up on your radios, but really spend time, and yes, this may come from the guy who has a ground school, spend time in a ground school. The more time you spend on the ground, the more productive you'll be in the air. You've heard me say it before, Eduardo, the airplane is a terrible classroom. It's an expensive classroom. It's a fast-moving classroom with no pause button. A 1.8 lesson as a private pilot may seem like nothing. A 1.8 lesson as an IFR pilot in the clouds shooting approaches, you will need to take a nap after that. It's so taxing. It's a mental game, instrument flying is. I want you, and most people will probably test this in the chat, you need to brush up on radios and the ground knowledge first. Otherwise you will fall behind the airplane in a heartbeat and you'll be spending $200 an hour to watch your instructor shoot approaches. When you could be in an online ground school. I hope it's ours. If it's not, that's fine. But learning approaches and those sort of things on the ground first.
Clint, who we had dinner with at the meet and greet in Charlottesville, he said hi, and he said that as of right now, they're still able to make the daily drone flights and deliver data.
That's awesome, Clint. Super glad everything's going well for you. That's really, really cool that you're able to, number one, still fly and then delivering the data. Look at, we're trying to do a live stream now on 4 megabytes up and making it work somehow. So good to hear from you, Clint.
All right, Ray is saying that the ground school with M0A is great. It also was helpful for him to make flashcards.
Awesome. This is Coach Ray, then I take it, right? From the webinars, yes?
Not positive.
Awesome.
Let's see. What do you do when your CFII can't ever fly because his wife won't let him? I'm asking for a friend.
Wayne, did you write this question in? Okay, say the question again. I apologize.
What do you do when your CFII can't fly because his wife won't let him?
I assume this is because like the coronavirus, maybe, or is this?
Assuming.
Could you clarify? Because if it's because
Jason, can you clarify for us?
Jason, great name by the way. Can you clarify, is this just he won't fly because of the coronavirus? Because you have to be so respectful of people's professional opinions. Maybe they have a young child at home. You just have to be respectful of those decisions. If this has been going on since before the coronavirus, we've got a little bit of an issue. That person shouldn't be a flight instructor and you need to find a new one. But if it's because of the coronavirus, I think you need to just be a hair more patient and respectful. If you want to find somebody else you can fly with, by all means. But listen, if that person had a young child at home or something, I wouldn't be crazy about that. I have a 2-year-old, soon to be 3-year-old in a few weeks at home, and a 5-year-old at home. So I'm not crazy about that idea. I get if that's the case. That's the case. So,
how many hours do you have, and do you log all of your flight hours in, or was there a point where you had enough hours and didn't log them?
I'm missing some hours for sure because I've fallen behind. I'm pulling my logbook right now. And I'm actually behind. ForeFlight says I have 8 entries I need to update. I haven't been as diligent as I should have been. When I'm pursuing a certificate or something like that, obviously I'm very, very diligent with it. 10,106.4. So if you remember though, I made an announcement I passed 10,000 hours a while ago, and I've only added 100 and something hours since then. I'm missing a bunch in there. I'm not as diligent as I used to be with it. ForeFlight makes it a lot easier though now because it just kind of auto logs it for me. So that helps a whole lot, and I'm thankful for that.
All right, let's see. Ray is responding.
I got one real quick. I see a lot of people ask about Sun and Fun. What's your opinion on that and what's going to happen?
So Office Dad Wayne asked, what is my opinion of Sun and Fun? What do we think is going to happen? Sun and Fun is like in our backyard, so it's a bummer to see it not happen with them postponing the dates. Again, Jason, the eternal optimist, I'm a little negative on their date of May 5th through the 10th. If you look at it let's look at it from perceived public persona and political pressures alone, right? Let's think about it from a business standpoint. You've got AOPA San Marcos, which I believe was in June, has already canceled. So that's a date in the future. It's an aviation fly that's canceled. You've got the Olympics postponed, for goodness sakes, which was what, June, July. Like, that's a lot of pressure. They say, listen, even if the Olympics make the decision to postpone, you guys should consider the same thing too. Like, there's going to be a lot of outside pressure to it. You could argue, okay, maybe it's not as bad in Florida. Maybe, I don't know. You could make a million arguments, but there's going to be a lot of perception issues around that, just from a business standpoint of going on with those dates. I personally don't believe it's going to happen. I wish them the best. I hope it does. I know Greg Gibson, the director of marketing there, very well, and boy, that man has not been sleeping very much lately, I can assure you, with this decision looming in the back of his mind. So thoughts and prayers to him as he gets ready to make that decision from a place of wisdom, no doubt. I don't envy that position one bit, but I have a funny feeling it's going to get postponed yet once again. The problem is you postpone it, and you're now pushing into other air shows. The Thunderbirds can't make it. This air show performer can't make it. Whatever it is, like, it just becomes a scheduling issue. M0A, let's say they push it to a date we're somewhere else, we can't make it, and it's going to be a big challenge.
And to follow that up, someone asked if you think Oshkosh will be able to happen.
Oh my goodness, it'd be devastating to lose both our 2 big air shows. Again, my attitude would be we'd just come out with resilience and just make it 2021 just that much stronger, that much better. If these organizations, by the way, can they survive that kind of financial windfall? You got to realize, Sun and Fun and Oshkosh. I mean, yeah, they have EAA, Oshkosh does, but this is a big revenue generating source for them. Can they live without that source of revenue for an additional year? Because we've done events. You prepay the vendors, you prepay the tents, you prepay this, and guess what? They're not so eager right now to give you your money back either. You prepaid that block of hotel rooms. Like, man, it's it's not a good situation. I hope and pray Oshkosh happens. We've been talking about that internally a little bit as to when our kind of cutoff date is, to when we say no go, and we'll see.
Yep.
A lot will happen this week and next week with the coronavirus, I believe.
Absolutely.
To tell a lot of that.
And just like that, a whole hour has passed.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. So
super. Well, I will wrap it up on that unless another amazing question comes in. If we miss anything, we have.
I do have one last question in there.
Let's do one last question.
Okay.
I'll go to an outro.
Have you ever had any engine failure?
I did. Can I go get my exhaust? Will you get it, Wayne? Thanks. So, online ground school members just heard the story yesterday of my engine failure on takeoff in 512 Romeo. I won't give away all. Don't throw it. I won't give away all the details. Anyways, which camera you want to use, Wayne? You want to use this one over here since it's closer? This is a Continental 0200 exhaust manifold. It is supposed to look like this on this side. This is the side, again, supposed to look like I have a cap on it. I don't know how well you can see in there because it's dark, but it looks like that. It's not supposed to look like that. Not only did I lose the exhaust manifold, which doesn't allow you to produce full power, I simultaneously lost a cylinder. Whether those are related or not, we've never been able to figure out, or just a really creepy coincidence. So basically lost a cylinder, lost an exhaust manifold on takeoff at 400 feet, was producing like 2,000 RPMs, 21, as low as 19. It was surging, vibrating left and right. Was able to lower the nose, realize I wasn't losing, nor was I gaining altitude, and kind of nursed the airplane around the traffic pattern at 400 feet and landed safely. That is the very, very abbreviated version of that story. I just told the whole story over 30 minutes yesterday. So ground school members, if you're in there, you can go catch that recording if you want to see that. As well, but we'll end on that question. If any other great ones come in, you can certainly take them down. M0A Nation, Remote Pilot 101 Nation. I'm doing live streams tomorrow for Remote Pilot. We'll be live on the Remote Pilot YouTube and the Remote. Why did you bring? Oh, you got glitter on the desk. At least it's blue. I'm not going to touch it. Where did you buy glitter?
Your favorite color.
It is my favorite color, but. Oh, I hate glitter. He put glitter all over my desk the other day. I still haven't been in. Thank God I'm working from home. The cleaning crew's just been in there scrubbing over and over to find every piece of glitter. Anyways, before I was rudely interrupted by the office dad, we have a lot of fun here if you can't tell. Remote Pilot. Remote Pilot YouTube and Facebook tomorrow, 2 p.m. The state of Part 107. The impact I think this coronavirus will have on the industry, what's coming, remote ID, all those sort of topics we're going to talk about tomorrow for about 30 minutes live, answer your questions there. Then, manned aviation on M0A, like where you are now, the M0A YouTube, the M0A Facebook. I'm doing a live accident analysis of the JFK Jr. crash. Did you know that 23 days before the accident, JFK Jr. broke his left ankle? Did you know that according to the NTSB, he was just 1 digit off on his frequency to contact approach to bring it in for a landing on the Long Island Sound? All these little things that are a little unknown. And then, of course, there's conspiracy theories and all that. We're not going to get into that as much. We're going to talk about it from a chain of events standpoint, what we could have done, how we could have broken the chain of events, and how JFK Jr. could still be alive today. We're going to talk about that. I've done this accident in the past, but never to this great of detail. A brand new simulation to go along with it. That goes live right here on the M0A YouTube and Facebook at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So I missed your question. At 2 and 3 o'clock, you can save those for then. But listen, there are opportunities out there to seize. Be smart, be wise, operate from a place of wisdom in all your decisions with what you're doing. This is an amazing time to get back into your ground studies, focused on, I'm going to get that knowledge test done, that written test done. I'm going to study towards that checkride. Whatever it is, make the most of this opportunity, no doubt. And please know that myself and the M0A.com team, we are here to truly serve you. You may not know, we have live chat usually from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 11 o'clock at night. The phones are still working even though we're all remote. Reach out to this amazing team here. This mzero.com team is a group of dedicated professionals, 25, 26 of us now, that are just dedicated to helping you pursue your dreams in aviation. You have been such a blessing to us over the past 10 years now. It's our turn to be a blessing to you all. So if there's anything at all we can do this week to help you be that safer, smarter pilot, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow. And most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you. Good job, Wayne.